Hello, my name is Kazu Watanabe. I'm the Deputy Director of Film at Japan Society in New York, and one of the programmers behind Japan Cuts Festival of New Japanese Film. I'm happy to welcome everyone to our second live stream event for this year's virtual edition, which runs for one more week through July 30th. I'm joined by my colleagues and fellow festival programmers, Joel Neville Anderson, who will be moderating the conversation this evening, and Amber Noe, who will be providing live interpretation. We're very excited to have Fukushima 50 included as our centerpiece presentation this year. An honor to have the film's two stars, Koichi Sato and Ken Watanabe, here with us live from Japan for this special Q&A. Sato-san and Watanabe-san are the dual recipients of the 2020 Cut Above Award, the festival's annual award recognizing achievement in cinema. We would have loved to have greeted them in New York in order to present the award in person. However, we look forward to a future opportunity to host them at Japan Society. If you have not yet had a chance to watch Fukushima 50, there are still virtual tickets available on our website, which is japancuts.japansociety.org. And a video in which the two actors accept the Cut Above Awards is included with the online presentation of Fukushima 50 as exclusive bonus content. So please make sure to check that out. Leave your questions for Sato-san and Watanabe-san in the comments, which I will be compiling. So Joel will start the conversation off with a few questions that he prepared, and then I'll return for the audience Q&A portion after about 20 minutes or so. So without further ado, let me now welcome Joel, who will introduce our honored guests.
Thank you, Kazu, and hello, everyone. My name is Joel Neville Anderson, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Koichi Sato and Ken Watanabe for this special Q&A. We're proud to welcome them as dual recipients of the 2020 Cut Above Award, as their work represents both the range and dynamism of Japanese cinema that Japan Cut celebrates and exemplifies Japan Society's mission of deepening mutual understanding between the US and Japan in a global context. Koichi Sato received the Japan Academy Award for New Actor for his first ever film appearance in The Gate of Youth in 1981, and went on to claim Japan Academy Awards for The Crest of Betrayal in 1994, Whiteout in 2000, When the Last Sword is Drawn in 2003, and 64 in 2016, among many other acting honors. Sato-san is an incredibly versatile actor, regularly playing everyman heroes or villains across his prolific career as a quintessential protagonist of contemporary Japanese cinema, which now includes starring in over 100 films. Ken Watanabe was catapulted into the global spotlight with his Golden Globe and Oscar-nominated role in Edward Zwick's The Last Samurai of 2003, making him perhaps the most recognizable Japanese actor around the world. He's won the Japan Academy Award for Best Actor for Memories of Tomorrow in 2007 and The Unbroken in 2009, among many other honors and starring roles in titles such as Batman Begins in 2005, Letters from Iwo Jima in 2006, Inception in 2010, and of course the American Godzilla series. We were pleased to see them come together to commemorate the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear catastrophe of March 11th, 2011 in Setsuro Wakamatsu's film Fukushima 50, and happy to honor their dedication to telling hard truths and crossing borders during today's moment of crisis. Sato-san and Watanabe-san, thank you so much for sharing this film and joining us. To begin, why don't you say a few words of greeting to the online audience watching us now to get us started.
どうも、本日はお招きいただきありがとうございます。この福島ビューティーという映画が世界でいろんな方に見ていただく、その中で民族、宗教、いろんな形のものが違う中で何か人間たちが地球というその未来に対して共有言語を持てれば嬉しいなと思います。今日はよろしくお願いします。
Thank you so much for inviting me today. I hope that the whole world watches this film, regardless of race, religion, and all other various differences. I hope that this film can be a universal language for all humans.
And Watanabe-san?
こんにちは、渡辺健です。ニューヨークはこんばんはですね。非常に、なんて言うんでしょう、ニューヨークに今入れない自分がちょっと悔しいなと、そういうふうに思っています。とても僕たち大切な映画を作れた、それがこうやって世界に発信できていくことをとても嬉しく思っています。ただ、こういう世の中の状況なので、劇場で皆さんとお目にかかれないことが非常に悔しい。本当にその喜びと悔しさ、両方半分半分な今日であります。
My main sentiment right now is just feeling it's such a shame that I can't be there with you in New York in person. This film was very memorable and special for me to be a part of, and it's just a shame that I can't show it to you in person, but thank you for having me tonight.
Great. Thank you both very much. And we look forward to greeting you in New York sometime in the near future, I hope. So let's begin with the first question. This film comes just prior to the 10-year anniversary of 311. How did you both come to the project? I believe you came on first, Sato-san?
監督の若松さんからお話を別の現場で仕事を一緒にしているときに、お話を伺いまして、10年といってもまだ生々しい記憶の中にある、そのことを映画でやる。しかもどうしてもどちらかに偏ってしまう、そういうふうな危険性もはらんでいる映画だったので、それは正直最初は慎重になりました。だけど若松さん自身、先ほども言いましたように、これから人間の未来に対して自分たちが何が必要で何が必要でないか、それも含めていわゆる偏らないリベラルなそういう方法の中で映画を作りたいというふうにおっしゃってくださったので、それを信じて参加しました。
I first heard about the film project from director Setsuro Wakamatsu on a different project that I was working on with him. It has been almost 10 years since 311, but it's still a very raw memory. And there is the danger of expressing this event with bias. So I was wary. But as Director Wakamatsu mentioned, and as I mentioned earlier, he himself told me that he wanted this film to be an unbiased portrayal of what we need for the future of humanity. So I just trusted him when he said that. And that's how I joined the project.
Mm-hmm. I find the film to be a beautiful tribute to the people of Fukushima, and how working to save one community at risk can come to mean literally saving the world. And it also boldly points to real systemic failures in terms of government and nuclear industrial risk. But at the same time, the film is dramatized with fictional names, except for the plant manager, Masao Yoshida-san. Could you talk about the challenges that both of you took on, playing a real-life character, Watanabe-san, as well as the fictionalized protagonist of Toshio Izaki-san, who's actually from the Fukushima area, Sato-san?
ここ4年5年の間なんですけれども、吉田さんを、主人公にした、この原発事故の、ドラマであったり映画であったり、オファーを2回ほどいただきました。ただその時は時間的、その原発から時間があまり経ってないっていうこともありましたし、そのドキュメンタリーを僕らが撮ったことによってどういうふうに受け止められるかっていう非常に危惧することがあって、そのオファーはちょっと 棚上げというか、ちょっと置いたんですね。で、今回、福島50という原作と脚本を元にオファーをいただいたときに、この中には非常にもちろん原発の詳細な事故の内容に関しても書いてあるんですけれども、非常にヒューマンドラマとしてのそこで戦った男たち女たち、人間たちがどういう悩みや苦しみを持って、ある意味ふるさとや家族に対する愛を持ってその事故と立ち向かったのかという非常に心を打つヒューマンドラマがあったんですね。プラスその主人公を佐藤浩市君がやってくれるという話を聞いたときに、僕は「許されざる者」って映画を彼と一緒にやったときに、彼が100本目の映画に出るときにはどんな役でも僕は参加するからねって、約束をしてたんですけれども、いいその機会にこの映画がなるんじゃないかなと思ったんですけれども、彼は多作なのでもう100本明らかに超えちゃっていたので100本目の作品にはならなかったんですけれども、佐藤浩市君がその伊崎という男をやってくれるという、その主演をしてくれるということで、逆に吉田さんそのものは本当に事故とどう向き合えるかという、そういうキャラクターに置き換えられたので、非常に、この役をやるにはいい映画になるというふうに考えましたね。
In the past 4 to 5 years, I've actually received 2 offers to play films or to play the role of Mr. Yoshida as the main protagonist. But there were 2 reasons why I never accepted them before. One was that it was too soon since the event had happened. And I was also hesitant about portraying it in a documentary-like format. So when I first received the script for Fukushima 50, which put it in a more drama-centric point of view, in which the perspective of the men and women who were battling with the incident on site was put at the forefront. And when I read that, and I was personally very moved by that. So that was the first reason I accepted the offer. And the second reason was when I heard that Sato-san had already accepted the offer as to portray Mr. Izaki. It reminded me of when we had first promised each other, or I had promised him that I would work with him on his 100th film after we had worked together on The Unforgiven. But because he is such a prolific actor, I missed his 100th film. But I was really glad to have this opportunity to realize that promise that we had made, and I was able to portray the of Mr. Yoshida.
And Sato-san, as your character is a Fukushima native, could you talk about your own preparation, since Izaki-san really stands in for the kind of local kind of working people's spirit in the film?
ほとんど現場の人間は現地雇用の人間が多かったわけです。で、最初にこの時、その残った50人、当然自分たちの町、ふるさと、国、家族がいる。なんかどの視点で自分たちはそこにいなければいけないと思ったんだろうか。最初はだからその国の肩越しに家族やふるさとがある、そう思うのか、それともふるさとや家族の肩越しに国を見たのか。ちょっとこれ通訳難しいかもしれないけど、でもどっちなんだろうなと思って、それをまず自分の中でなんかやりながら分かりたいなという気持ちがすごく強くあったんですけど、もうその場にいた時、もうほとんど順追って撮ってたんで、もうそんなことじゃないんだな。家族やふるさとのため、国のためとかではなく、そこに入れるのは自分たちしかいないんだ。そこで守れるものが、もし家族であり、ふるさとであり、国であり、何であれ、入れる以上はここにいるんだというふうな思いしかなかったんだろうなと。そういうふうなところで作りました。
Most of the cast were locals. And I was curious of what the perspective of these 50 who were also locals of the Fukushima region were. I was curious what their perspective would be if their focus would be from their local area, Fukushima, and they would be saving the world, or if they're saving the world for the purpose of Fukushima. But when I went onto set and we started shooting, I realized, because we shot in sequence, I made the discovery that it actually doesn't matter if you're doing it for the purpose of your country or for your local region of Fukushima, or if you're doing it for your family. It actually doesn't matter. Basically, you're the only one that can do this in this moment. There's an urgency that you're the only person that's capable of doing this mission. So it doesn't matter who you're doing it for. So that's the kind of emotion that I had as I was filming that I discovered.
Mm-hmm. And Sato-san, in your remarks accepting the Cut Above Award, you said that when natural disasters beyond human understanding occur, what can be done? Natural disasters test humanity. Human missteps make natural disasters human-made disasters. I agree that this film imparts an important lesson. And I also want to note what Watanabe-san said in his remarks accepting the award, that film can continue to provide a platform for both dialogue and healing. So given this context, I'm just curious if the two of you have thought about how the story of 311 that this film tells could lend lessons to the crisis that we now find ourselves in with COVID-19 across the world, that has these local flavors as well as transnational elements.
まあいろんなその災害というか、今回のコロナにしても非常に厄介な災害だというふうに思うんですね。ただいかに情報をちゃんと共有しながら慈愛の念を持ってお互いを思いやって助け合えるか救い合えるかっていうことはどんな災害でも非常に大事なことだと思うんですね。で、やっぱり正しく今の現状を理解してそれでできるだけのことを、社会に対してでも、家族に対して友人に対して全てに対して自分の可能な限りできることをやっていく、そういう中で、我々は映画を作る、舞台を作る、そういう、俳優という仕事をしている中で今後どうやって、そういうお互いを支えるようなことをしていけるのかっていうふうなことを考えていかなければいけないなと思っています。
Disasters such as COVID and others are always troublesome, but I believe we must keep in mind how we can keep a heart of compassion and keep in mind information to save each other. It's important no matter what situation we're in. We need to first understand the situation thoroughly and do what we can for our families and our communities. As actors, I believe I want to continue pursuing this to see what we can do to save each other.
Sato-san, I wonder if you have any further thoughts. I found both of your comments very moving and compelling.
これは本当にこのメッセージの中で言ったことと同じになっちゃうんだけど、天災というものは準備はできるけど防ぐことはできない。起こってしまったものに対して。だけど人災というのは防ぐことができるんですよね。で、今回のコロナでもやはりそれは人災にしないための努力というのは各々個人、国も国家でもそうだ。それでなんとか人災を防ぐことができる。そういうことをみんながちゃんと常識として持っている。そのことが大事なんじゃないのかなと思いますけど。
This becomes a repetition of my video comments, but I think that the key difference between natural disasters and man-made disasters is that natural disasters we can prepare for, but we can't prevent, whereas man-made disasters we can prevent, including COVID, there are all man-made disasters we can prevent, and we must each as individuals and as nations do what we can to prevent these disasters.
Mm-hmm. You know, as Watanabe-san mentioned, this film reunites the two of you after working on Sang-Il Lee's great Unforgiven. And in that film, you were nemeses and you were often fighting. However, you're friends here, but you only share a few moments on screen. I wonder if you could discuss how you adjusted your collaboration for the unique collaboration that you take in the film, where you're often on the phone or communicating through other ways.
その生まれ育ちも全然違う2人で、おそらく環境も違う考え方を持っていたんだと思うんですよね。ただ、ある意味自分たちの仕事に対するプライドとか、原発に対する思いとか、そういうものに対しては非常に共通項があった2人だというふうに僕は思ってました。ただやっぱり撮影条件が、まず中層、井崎が率いている非常に現場ですよね。事故現場の中層を先に、撮影をしたので、彼がほぼ8割方撮影が終わってから僕たちのその緊急対策本部という撮影が始まったんです。で、そこではそのシーン的には赤い電話が緊急の赤い電話が1本つながってるだけなんですけれども、おそらく、もちろん台本を全部読んでますし、彼がどういうふうなこの映画に対する向かい方をしたかっていうのは非常に想像ができたんですね。それで僕にあとは頼んだって言ってバトンを渡された気がしたんですよ。で、これはもう本当に、自分の中で最大限可能な限りできることをこの映画にぶつけなければいけないというのをそのバトンを受けた時に感じましたし、ある意味その赤い電話が1本つながってて、その先には何が起こってるかわからない。でもあいつがいるから大丈夫だ。そういうある種のその意図でつながれている、そういう感覚を持った中で、撮影をさせていただくことができました。
Our birthplaces and how we grew up are different, and we have different perspectives. But our main pride for our work and our passion for our work is similar, I believe. The shooting criteria or shooting situation of this film was very unique, in which it began with Mr. Sato's scenes in the control room or Chuso room, which is the on-site of the incident. I came in halfway after his scenes were shot, and there's only the emergency red phone line that connects us. I had, of course, already read the script, so I could kind of imagine how he was going to battle with the incident and how he was going to face it. So that helped also, but I felt that when I came onto set, he passed me the baton. He said, do your best. And I felt in that moment that he was telling me I was taking on their hard work from there. The only connection, as you mentioned, is the red phone, and it serves kind of as a red string that ties us. That was the only connection that we had because we didn't know what was going on otherwise.
And you can sense the warmth between your characters, even in the kind of displaced locations that they're in. But you do have a few shared scenes meeting in the control room, which I also thought were very touching. I want to move on to audience questions soon, but before I do, I want to ask how the film has been received and responded to by audiences in Fukushima, or those who were severely impacted by the events of 311, and if there are any kind of personal responses that you'd like to share, perhaps including those who worked on the film directly.
はい、最初にまず、この試写を福島でやらさせていただいたときに、正直怖かったです。もう皆さん、僕らよりより生々しく当時のことを、実際、親族や友人を亡くされた方もいらっしゃるわけで、その方々が実際この映画、かなり冒頭にリアルなシーンもあるので、生々しさをどう受け止めてしまうかな、その怖さも耐えられなくて劇場を出てしまう人もいるかもしれないな、そういう怖さはあったんですけど、皆さん最後まで本当に踏ん張ってこの映画を見ていただいて、そして最後の最後、もうほとんどの方がもう泣かれてる中で、みんながこの映画を作ってくれてありがとうございましたとおっしゃっていただいた、そのこと、それだけでも本当に何かいろんなところに発信できるというか、その福島の皆さんの思いを逆にこの映画を見る人たちに伝わってくれれば嬉しいなと、そう思いました。
When we first did our screening, the premiere screening, which is in Fukushima, I was very scared because it was to an audience that had experienced the event in a much more raw way than I had, of course. And some of them, of course, had lost their loved ones. So it was a very scary experience. And I was wondering if they would walk out or how they would receive the film. But thankfully, they stuck through with it. And most of them were crying and they were able to tell us, thank you for creating this film, which was really gratifying for me. And for me, I think that the film should carry the message of the people of Fukushima.
Oh, thank you. And I'm sure that other audiences who both emphasize with the experiences of 311 through their own tragedies, or just through the film as a moving drama, are able to ask their own questions about this dramatic reenactment of the events of 311. So in that spirit, I'd like to turn it over to the American audiences that have been watching the film and have submitted questions online, as well as submitted questions through the live stream, watching your answers now. So I'll pass it on back to Kazu to pass those questions on to you. So thank you so much, Watanabe-san and Sato-san.
Thank you, Joel. And we've gotten a lot of questions, both in our YouTube live stream chat and online through a Google submission form. So hopefully we'll get through as many as we can. We're going to start with a question from Joshua in New York, which kind of carries on the topic that Joel left us with. It's a two-part question, and the first part says, first of all, thank you very much for your powerful performances, which portrays one of Japan's darkest days. 3/11 brings back memories for every Japanese in a similar way that 9/11 brings back memories for New Yorkers and Americans. So this is kind of a personal question. First, what were your personal memories from that day in 3/11? And did you keep those in mind as you started preparing for this film?
311の後に個人的にですね、避難所を回らせていただいて、東北3県をずっと回っていたんですけれども、やっぱり福島の深いところまではなかなか入れなかったんですよね。で、やっぱり福島で一番感じたのは、怒りの矛先が非常に強く、原発だったりとか、政府だったりとか、皆さんが怒っていた印象が強かったですね。で、他の、宮城とか岩手とか、北の方に行くと、これは天災だからしょうがない。そういう感覚で、本当に諦めに近いような形、それを僕らはどう慰められるかっていうふうに思ったんですけど、福島に関しては その怒りの矛先を僕たちが受け止めきれない、それぐらい強い思いを感じました。で、僕は実際この映画では福島には行けてないんですね。全部ほとんどセットと、ロケは表関係は福島じゃないところで撮りましたので、でもやっぱりその距離感、その原子力発電所と町の距離感みたいなものに関しては非常に実感が、自分の田舎の新潟にも同じような大きな原発があるので、そのところで事故が起きたっていう、起きたらどうなるんだろうっていう想像は非常に明確に僕の中であったので、ある意味その想像はしやすかったんですけれども、ただやっぱりこれは後で佐藤君が話すると思うんですけど、その最後のラストシーンでその綺麗に咲いた満開の桜をバックに彼の思いをこう何も語らないんですけど、映すシーンがあるんですけども、それは本当に非常に僕にとっても、多分お客さんにとっても印象的なシーンになると思います。それはもう本当に福島の最深部、事故現場に近いところで撮影をしたので。
After 311, I was able to have the opportunity to visit the 3 prefectures of the Tohoku region. And it was, I wasn't able to step foot deep into Fukushima, but my impression of the surrounding prefectures was that of mainly despair, whereas the main sentiment inside of Fukushima itself was anger. There was so much anger that I felt towards nukes, towards the government. It was such a strong sentiment that whereas in Miyagi and other prefectures, we just had to kind of calm the people, in Fukushima, the feeling of anger was very strong. And actually, most of my filming was done not in Fukushima. My filming was done on sets in other locations, such as Nagano, but I was able to have a clear sense of imagination because there is a large nuclear reactor in my hometown in Niigata Prefecture. So it was very easy for me to imagine what it was like, what it would be like, how horrifying it would be if a similar incident occurred in my hometown as well. And I think that Sato-san will also mention this later, but the last scene that Sato-san portrays with the sakura is a very central location in Fukushima. So it's a very memorable scene and it's also very moving.
Sato-san, would you like to answer the same question? Your own personal memories from that day, 3/11, and what you brought with you into the filming of Fukushima 50.
まず今渡辺健さんおっしゃったように、その撮影の時最後その桜のシーンはまだ帰宅困難地域、その撮影当時今入れるようになったんですけど、まだ普通に入ることができない地域に入って、まずそこで見た、驚きというかね、街が本当にゴーストタウンになっていた。その先にその公園があって花が咲いてる。で、やっと今そうだな、皆さんにも理解されるようになった花をめでるという習慣、日本人が、特に桜を見る、桜が非常に、短命に花を散らす刹那的な美しさを持っている、なんかそれに対する思い入れというのが日本人は非常に独特に強く持っているものがあって、なんかそれを実際その福島のそこで撮影をしながら見たときに、その志半ばで行ってしまった吉田所長、その他に、その震災を受けた人たち、国、なんかいろんなものに対する思いが、怒りでも悲しみだけでもない、何かそれがバッと自分の中に湧いてきたっていう、それは役の気持ちなのか僕の気持ちなのか、それは分からないぐらい、それはもう一緒くたになって自分の中に湧いてきたものがあったっていう、なんかそこら辺の桜のシーンが自分にとっては全てだったかな。なんかそれが 福島のその時の思いと、映画の中でもう一度自分自身がなんかこれからいろんなことを考えるにあたって、なんていうかな、答えではないんだけど、何かそれを導き出してくれる、そんな感じがしました。
Yes, so that final Sakura scene that Watanabe-san just mentioned, we shot it when it was still a region that you couldn't enter. Now you can enter, but at the time that we were filming, it was still a lockdown, so we had to have special permission to film there. But at the time, it was really a scene. It was a ghost town, and there were flowers blooming in this ghost town. Flower watching culture is strongly unique to Japan, and I think it's now being more introduced and accepted by the world, but it's culturally and historically very specific to Japan. And as I was shooting this scene, I just remember feeling overcome with not just anger or sadness, but something bigger as I was remembering Yoshida-san, who is a real life person who passed away, and others who passed away during this incident, just recalling everyone something really big, something much larger than myself, which I'm not sure came from me, myself, or the character. In that moment, it became one and the same. For me, that scene is everything. It is extremely important. And I feel that it might not be an answer necessarily, but I hope it is a hint.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a question from Yoko. Maybe a bit of a tough question, but we are talking about anger a little bit. How was the reaction in Japan from the Prime Minister's office and from TEPCO? Did the movie receive or create any controversy in the way it characterized and depicted the Prime Minister and TEPCO's top management?
非常に印象的だったのが、郡山原発から割と避難をされてきた大きな町があるんですけれども、そこでまず日本1号目のシェアカーをやったんです。でその時にそのイサキのモデルとなった方の息子さん2人が見に来てくれたんです。で僕たちはもうお父さんからいろんな話を聞いてるんだと思ってたら、映画を見て初めて父親がこんな体験をしてたんだ、こんな思いを持って向かい合ってたんだっていうことに初めて気がついたそうなんですね。一番近くにいる人たちですらそうだったわけで、やっぱりこの事柄、このお話そのものが本当に日本人の多くの方たちが知らなかったことだと思うんですね。ですからその情報を入れた上でどう思うか、どう考えるか、どう感じるかっていうのはもうそれぞれ個人に僕は委ねられてると思うので、それはもう賛否が起こるのは全くしかるべきお話だと僕は思うので、そのことに関しては全く異存はありません。ただやっぱりこのことを知ってもらいたいっていうことに僕は特化してこの映画をお勧めしたいと思いますね。
When we showed this film in Koriyama to an audience that included the sons of the person who the character of Mr. Izaki is modeled after, his two sons were in the audience, and I had assumed that they had heard a lot about his father from him or from others around him, but they actually came up to us after the screening and said they discovered how he was dealing with that incident in specifics from the film that they didn't know about before seeing it. So it's like that for people who are even the most closest to the central figures of this incident. So you can only imagine how it is for those who, for the rest of Japan. So mainly for me, this film functions as an information vehicle. I hope that people can just learn the specifics of this incident from this film. And I think controversy is a precedent for something like this.
Sato-san, would you also like to respond regarding tackling the difficult subject of portraying the Japanese government and TEPCO?
どうしてもね、国にはいろんな国のさまざまな国のそのこと、事情、地域には地域の事情、一概にバッとその側面だけで是非を問える、こんなに簡単なことはないんだけど、なかなかそういうわけでもない。ただコロナと状況が違うのは、地震とかというのはどうしても日本の言葉で言うと対岸の火事という言葉があって、そこでいないとやっぱりなかなかわからない。大変なことがあったねというのはやっぱり反対側から見てるだけの場合もどうしてもあるんですよね。だからそこら辺の難しさを自分たちがその対岸の火事にしないで、常にこれが足元で起こることなんだ。でもそれをだからダメだではもう身も蓋もないんで、そのために何をするかっていう自分たちには分からないその国、その地域の事情、それを自分たちがどういうふうに配慮して考えてみんなで答えを出していけるのか、それがより強く求められるし、何が必要なのか何が必要じゃないのかも含め、みんなで考えていくということだと思いますけどね。
Many nations and different regions have their own issues, so I don't think one particular area doesn't have something entangled. But there is a phrase called Taigan no Kaji, which has been applied to both COVID and the Fukushima Daiichi accidents, which basically refers to this issue of feeling like a spectator if you haven't experienced the issue firsthand. And I believe that I hope this film will help everyone think about this issue together, not just as a spectator, as a witnesser saying, oh, that's bad or that's good, but as someone, as a first person account, to have this be something that you experience for yourself and to think together about how we can move on from this.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Ken Webb, and it's quite simple. Was there anything you learned during the making of the film that surprised you about this event? Something that you didn't know before?
「最終的に、複合的な爆発が起こらなくて、もしその爆発が起きていたら、本当に東日本、もしくは日本全体が壊滅的な状況に陥ったんかもしれない。でもそれは、科学的な力で人間が止めたわけではない。全く偶然で、ある種の運のようなもので、ラックで止まったんだっていうことを、この脚本を読んだとき、原作を読んだときに初めて知って、僕たちはそんな危うい、社会というかの中で生きていたんだっていうことに改めて気づかされました。
Ultimately, there wasn't a multi-plant explosion. It was stopped at a certain point. But I didn't know before filming that it wasn't stopped because of human prevention. It was actually luck that prevented this. So I wasn't aware that the world that we live in was based on such a fragilized situation as that.
Same question for Sato-san, please.
本当に全く同じでね、なぜ最後に爆発が起きなかったのか、これはまだ分かっていない。その恐怖というか恐ろしさを一人一人がみんな感じなきゃいけないし、本当にただそれはラックなのか、それだけで済ませられる問題じゃないんだということをもっとみんなここに思うべきことだと思います。
I just need to echo what Watanabe-san said. That last explosion, we still don't know why it didn't occur. So I think this fear needs to be something that everyone needs to bear. Is it luck, really? Are we okay with having that be the reason? It's something that we need to think about.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Asian movie enthusiast about working with director Wakamatsu. Both Watanabe-san and Sato-san have worked with the director in different projects. Can you tell us a little bit about that working relationship? What is Wakamatsu's style of direction?
若松さんは本当に役者をなんていうかな、その役者が今何を考えてどうしたいのかということと、その映画のベクトルと演者のそのベクトルをうまい具合に合致した、そういうふうな方向性をちゃんと作ってくれるというか、現場でそういうふうなところが非常に長けた監督で、当然若松さんとして映画にやりたいこと、でも、みんなが思い思いいろんなこと、それをうまくきっちりまとめることができるというかな、そこら辺の非常に怪獣というわけではないけど、なんかそういうことの能力にすごい長けたベテラン監督です。
Well, Wakamatsu Kantoku, or director Wakamatsu, knows the different dimensions or spheres that the actor is on, like what trajectory the actor is on individually and what trajectory the film is on. And he balances those two very well. He is also able to take the plethora of opinions from the village, which is the cast of the film, and able to kind of unify them into one. So he's a very skilled and veteran director.
Watanabe-san, any comment?
僕は、沈まぬ太陽という映画で、非常に長編であり、6カ国ぐらい、ロケをしなければいけない非常に大変な映画だったんですけれども、しかも長い年月のお話を、一本の作品にしなければいけない非常に大作であり難しい作品ではあったんですけれども、一緒にそこで生きている、役とともにものすごいなんていうのかな、好奇心でその撮影現場にいる、その目線を持っているっていうのが非常に印象的ですね。だからもうこういう演奏しなきゃいけないんだっていう固まったものではなくて、そっちへ行きたいの？じゃあこうしてみようか。そっちに、興味があるの？じゃあこっちを映してみようかみたいなことを非常に臨機応変に、ある種のドキュメンタリーをきっちりと作られた中でドキュメンタリーを撮っていくみたいな、そういう監督だと思います。だから僕たちは本当にいかにその役としてその現場の中で躍動したり、悩んだり、できるかっていうことに注視というか、そこにフォーカスをすればいいっていう、非常に楽しい監督ですね。
When I worked with director Wakamatsu for the film The Unbroken, which was a very epic shoot that was done over the location of 6 countries, 6 nations, and it was a depiction of a long period of time. What I saw that he was able to do was the characters have their own, they're bringing something to set, but there are also things that the set brings that are site specific. So director Wakamatsu is able to retain the curiosity of what's happening on set. Oh, that's the direction that you want to go in? Okay, we can go in that way. And he accepts these different changing situations. So he's flexible to the oscillation of the actors. So what we can do as actors then is just focus on being in the present moment and just feeling the excitement or the worry that we need to feel. And so it's very fun working with him.
Thank you very much. We have actually many questions, and unfortunately we have to wrap here, so we'll just ask one more, which was asked twice, so I feel like I have to ask. This is for Watanabe-san. What did you hum or sing when everybody was having snacks in the film?
それを何？ああ、なるほど。僕はその吉田所長というのはウエストサイドの日本の、関西の出身で、その原発の地元の人ではないですね。でも彼はこの原発で、第一原発でというか原発で仕事をしようと言った時に、本当に地元の人たちといつもお酒を酌み交わしたり、飯を食ったり、交流を交わしながら、その地元の人たちと一緒に関係を作り上げていったような人なんですね。で、そういう人なんですけど、ああいうそのシチュエーションとしては本当に危機的であり、もう誰も手の施しようがない、何も自分たちができない、そういう状況の中で思わずその地元の人たちが口ずさんでいた相馬の古い、民謡を口ずさむんですけれども、あれはですね、非常に難しい歌でした。ブロードウェイのキング&アイの歌以上に、難しい、歌でした。で、僕は監督にこれちょっと歌い出したらもう音楽がガーンとかかってドラマチックでもうすぐ消えるよねって言ったら、どうかな、一応最後まで歌ってくださいって言われて、試写を見た時に最後まで使われてしまったのかという非常に、俳優としては申し訳ないなっていう思いがあるんですけれども、でも非常にそれぞれの思い、それぞれの家族やふるさとに対する思いをある意味喚起する、呼び覚ますようなフレーズとしては非常にとても素敵な民謡だったので、それは良かったかなと思っています。
Mr. Yoshida is from Kansai, which is the west side of Japan. He's not a local of Fukushima. But when he volunteered to work at the Fukushima Daiichi, he became a very jubilant, key person who was able to create bonds with the people he was working with by drinking and eating. In the situation that I sing the song, it's a very critical situation in which there's nothing that can be done, or it seems that there's nothing that can be done. And so he begins to sing this old folk song which originates from the Soma Fukushima region, which is called Soma Nagareyama. And the scene is that he's supposed to just start singing, but this was a really difficult song for me to sing. It was more difficult for me than doing King and I on Broadway. Basically, I asked Director Wakamatsu, this part you're going to add like the music, right? And it's going to be like the orchestra is going to cover my singing. And he was like, no, that's not going to happen. So it was basically just my a cappella singing. It was very difficult. And I was holding on to the hope that he would add that music, but until the end, he didn't. So for me, it's slightly embarrassing still, but I hope that, I do believe that it encapsulates and recalls everyone's own sentiments to each of their hometowns.
Thank you very much. So that wraps it up for our audience question portion of this event. Thank you to everyone online who participated by submitting questions and for watching Fukushima 50 at Japan Cuts. I hope you continue to watch films through the rest of the festival period through July 30th. Sato-san, Watanabe-san, thank you very much again for participating in this Q&A and sharing your film with us. I hope in the future we have an opportunity to welcome you to Japan Society in New York. But for now, please, if you have any final words before we say goodbye, maybe we start with you, Sato-san.
本当に今日はありがとうございました。やっぱり本当に最初に言ったように、天才を間違えるとそれが人災に変わってしまう。それを一人一人がもう本当に心の中で肝に銘じながらいろんな準備をしていく。そのためにこの映画を見て少しだけ考えていただければそれで嬉しいです。どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you so much again for having me today. As I first said in the beginning, natural disasters do become man-made disasters if we're not careful enough. I hope that this film makes us all aware of that so that we can think about it and we can keep this issue as our own, each in our own. Thank you for having me today.
渡辺さん。
本当に、難しい時代が思ってもいなかった時代がやってきたというふうに思っています。ただエンターテインメントは絶対になくならないし、僕たちも必ず社会のために何かできることがあるというふうに、思っていますし、それを望んでいます。どんな形であれ、また皆さんの目に触れる、スクリーンだったり舞台だったりという形で皆さんとお目にかかる日を本当に、強く願っています。今日はどうもありがとうございました。
This is a very difficult and unforeseen situation, but I believe that entertainment doesn't and won't disappear, and it will continue to serve us well. So I believe that the day will come again when we can meet in person for a theater or for a film for the screen. So thank you again for having me today.
Thank you very much. And I want to echo the many, many thank yous coming from the chat in the live stream. We hope for an opportunity to see you in person in the future. And until then, please take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you.